Hello guys, welcome back to the Henry Holster shop. It's been a couple of weeks. How do I get the comments to show up? Swipe left to reveal comments. Come on, swiping left. There we go. So, it's been a couple of weeks since I've done any live videos. It's been a busy time. Booth is here. Hi, Booth. Weather has changed. It's cold in my shop. I got some new LED lights, so I'm all of a sudden like really brightly lit up and washed out. I'm actually going to go turn a couple of those off real quick because that is like super bright. 1 second. Slowing my speed to learn about speed. That's good, Skylar. Just watch your thumbs. Don't cut anything off. That's better. The new lights are on a remote. It's so fancy. So, as usual, if you are a Codex company, please post your company name up in the comments so that I can more easily keep track of who's who. Thank you for coming and spending some time up with me on a Monday night. The topic tonight is speed in the shop. How to get it, what the benefits are. Will Silk is here, Shane Muse is here. Hello, G&G Tactical, Gary Gonzalez. John Keller from Wolf Hollow is here. Thank you guys for coming by. I do not have a tool tip tonight. I did write out a page full of notes on the topic of speed. Hey, Conrad Miller, Strong Side is here. Grizzly Holster. Greg working with G&G Tactical. Hi, Greg Chav. I had an opportunity to go to the PRI show, Performance Racing Show, in Indianapolis this past weekend, which was totally awesome. Got to hang out with some other machinists, see some cool stuff, buy some new tools. Bought myself a horizontal bandsaw this weekend. Give Andrew money. I mean money? Money, says Tom Kelly. So, I'm going to be drawing on two unrelated, separate from holster areas that have informed my understanding of where speed comes from, how it's to be used, and how to work toward it. So my background is I'm a trained musician. I started taking lessons when I was 4 and took lessons, went to college, professional, joined some orchestras, played around, played lots of gigs. I've done all kinds of stuff. And so from a very early age, I've been practicing musical instruments intensely, hours a day. And it is a perennial problem with young musicians that they always want to hustle to play fast. The other side of this is, what did I end up getting? I bought the MSC House brand saw. It looks pretty much the same as what, it's a 7x12, pretty much the same as what most other companies had in the $900 price range-ish. But I got it at a little bit of a discount and free freight and liftgate service from Georgia, so that sealed the deal for me. Should be here probably Thursday or Friday. Young musicians always want to play fast, and they want to play fast at the expense of playing well. They want to play fast for the sake of playing fast. And so, in competitive shooting, we also have a thing where if you've ever shot IDPA or USPSA, if you start shooting a stage and you start making mistakes, the correct approach is to do whatever you need to speed in order to stop the mistakes from happening. You know, you come around a barrier, you miss. Okay? Making a second, even faster miss does not improve your situation. It actually makes it worse. Hello, Charles Lee Childress from RC Holster Supply in the house. And so, in shooting, you want to go as fast as you can without making lots of mistakes. Misses don't help. Hello, Jeremy Chasteen. And so, the first thing I want to explain about speed, like everything else in the production process in the shop, it's always a balance. It's give and take. It's a trade-off. Oftentimes in speed, in this kind of production, what we're trading is we're giving waste, material waste, in exchange for gaining back time. And that's very often. We're almost always giving up money to get money. We're giving up we're giving up dollars of wasted plastic to get time. And the time allows us to finish more units in a day, get more product out the door. USPSA is saying you can't miss fast enough to win. Totally true. Hello, John Hauptman. And so speed is always a balance. You're always weighing the speed versus the waste. And you can find a balance. Some people are more content. Some people, the waste bothers them more than it bothers others. Waste of plastic used to bother me much more than it does now. I'm not bothered by wasting Kydex anymore. It's just not, doesn't bother me. And so the other thing about mistakes is mistakes can drastically reduce your speed. Mistakes can ruin a project. Mistakes can set you way, way, way behind. All of us have had the experience of being in a hurry to finish a holster and then messing it up and having to start over and spending almost double the time we would have if we had gone slow and correctly the first time. And so hustling just for the sake of going faster can very easily, all the gains of that can very easily, audio dropped? Not sure, audio seems to be okay over here. John Keller, slow is smooth, smooth is fast is not exactly true. In a sense, it's true, in that fast, if it's choppy and full of mistakes, isn't actually fast. Hello, Jamie Lowe. Go slow enough to get it right. Really, my audio's breaking up pretty badly. I wonder why that is. Will says audio's good to go. Not sure. Checking my mic connections there. I don't get any indication that my connection is weak, so we'll just try. This is the first time I've been broadcasting. No, it's not, says Jamie Lowe. Well, hello, Jason Friedman. It was, but good now. Okay. I said in my little promo pitch for this talk, I was going to talk about good metrics versus bad metrics. So here are a few bad metrics for assessing speed. On my personal page, Rick. Audio is up, but sound is different. Did once, now, fine. Don't know. I'm just going to ignore the audio issues for now, guys. I'm just going to keep going on the topic. So if the audio drops completely, go ahead and post up. If not, we'll just keep going. Stress does not make you go faster. Stress often makes you worse. Fine motor control goes down as you get stressed. And so if your idea of going fast in the shop is to set a hectic pace, where you're on the edge of out of control, that's a very counterproductive approach to trying to speed up stuff in the shop. And the big thing, I'm going to mention this several times, mistakes in the shop can kill you. Mistakes in the shop can kill you. Okay? If you're just working with a heat gun and a coffee bum press and a blue gun, you're unlikely to kill yourself. But I'm working with multiple large machines. There are high voltages. There's a lot of power involved. Like, mistakes, or if you're just like cutting and cutting and cutting and cutting holsters, a single bad mistake can cripple you, could maim you for life. So the cost of these mistakes can be very high. So it doesn't matter how much faster you went on that one holster if you zip your pinky finger off on the bandsaw. Don't do that. If I feel like I'm rushing, I must be going fast. That's a bad metric. If I had tons of coffee and I'm just like flying through stuff, I'm going fast. It's working. You know, subjective metrics are often not really metrics. The metric I would propose has to be a longer time frame and a little bit more of an average. So this is what I would mean. I don't ever measure the speed at which I produce a holster by doing one as fast as possible on the clock, because I almost never do one at a time start to finish. That's an artificial test. It doesn't accurately reflect how my process really works. Shane, just keep an eye on your fingers. If you respect the saw, you will be safe. When you get complacent or careless and you don't think the saw can hurt you, that's when the saw hurts you. Sometimes you'll find yourself about to start a cut and you'll say to yourself, I shouldn't do this. If you say that to yourself, don't do it. Listen to yourself. If something in you says, I shouldn't cut this way, this is going to be bad, don't find out by doing it. Just don't do it. So test realistically for what your process is. If you're a completely custom holster maker, you use a lot of prints, you're doing every holster differently, you don't have master templates set up, you're not using CNC molds. If your process is very much every holster a unique thing, then you can measure how long it takes to make one holster, but every holster is different. That one measured time isn't normative for your entire process. So instead, measure something like, what was my average time for 10 holsters, or my average time for 20 holsters in a week? Run the clock on every single one, total up all your time, divide it out, and then the holsters, if you're doing a lot of custom work, are probably priced differently. So roll in the total dollars, the total minutes, and the total material cost, and sort of hash out roughly what you're getting. You can figure out how much you're spending on average per holster, even if they're custom and different, total up a bunch, an average amount. You can figure out about how much time you're spending on average per holster, do a bunch, average them out, and then set that as a benchmark. I don't run the saw if I'm tired or jittery from coffee, says Chip. I try to do all my cutting just before lunch. There are times when I've been in the shop and I've been working on something and I've said to myself, I should stop. It's not a virtue to push yourself to the point of being unsafe. You have to take care of you. I provide for my family with this job. If I severely injure or cripple or kill myself in this shop because I did something stupid, my family's in a terrible position after that, and it's my fault. So I have a responsibility to myself. I like my fingers. I want to keep them. And also to my family to not do anything stupid and get myself hurt in the shop. So things that are obviously foolish, shortcuts that shouldn't be done. Don't do them. They don't save you time. And so if you average out the time you're spending and the process costs, the material costs, over a wider period, you'll get a more realistic picture of what you're actually putting in and what you're actually getting out. If you do batch production, say you make 10 Glock 19 holsters, they're all the same, you have a tracing template, you drill them all at once, you bandsaw them all at once, then you go to the buffer, you buff all of them, then you put all the eyelets, then you put all the hardware, then you package 10 at a time. If you do a batch, then the time you test needs to be at least a couple batches. Say I did one batch of 40, and then a couple days later I did the same part again in a batch of 30, and then a couple days later a batch of 50. Well, that's lots of information if I actually run the clock on that. It can be difficult, though, to keep these metrics clean because we're often multitasking and doing many different things in the shop at once. If you give up and say, I'm always multitasking, I've always got like a sandwich in my hand, or I'm like doing this, or I'm drinking coffee, or I'm watching the heat press, and I'm trying to trim holsters, and then, I'm like, buffing one holster with my left hand, and I'm like trying to set eyelets with my right hand. If you're trying to do all this crazy multitasking, and you can never actually isolate parts of the production process and time them, then you never get a benchmark set, and you never really know how much time you're putting in. And every time you change your process, you go from scroll saw to bandsaw, you go from hand drill to drill press, you go from hand sanding to using flap wheels. Anytime you change a part of the process, your bottom line is changed. Your benchmark times have changed. We don't make holsters for the purpose of like racing and making the fastest holsters. The goal is always quality. I want to make the best holster I can as quickly as I can. I want to make a holster that meets my quality standard with as little wasted time as possible. Okay? Time that contributes to achieving that quality standard is by definition not wasted time. The time I'm trying to get rid of is time that doesn't move me toward that goal. Time that either doesn't affect the function of the holster, time that could be trimmed shorter if I would just change the way I was doing things. So feeling rushed, feeling hectic, feeling really amped up is a very subjective, unreliable metric for am I actually going faster? and you'll tend to make mistakes, and the mistakes will be discouraging. They take the wind out of your sails. It's not fun to screw something up and have to start it over. It's especially a problem if you're low on plastic or you were already late on the order and the customer's anxious, and so you try to hustle their thing through and you screw it up and have to start it over. If you're using a custom print and you don't have any spare material and you ruin it, that's a big bummer. Having another person time you and also make a chart of what your movements are throughout a single holster to a batch of holsters. Wasted energy in a poorly set up shop will make flow very hard, says Brett. So this was the next thing I was going to get to. Oftentimes, very simple things like moving tools around in your shop will create additional room for speed. If you go over here to trace, and then you come over here to cut, and then you go back over there to drill, and then you come back over there to sand, and then you go over there to get your hardware, and then you go down here to this bench to assemble, you're wasting a lot of time. Okay? If you can, if your space allows, set up a linear shop flow so that from forming, trimming, buffing, assembly, shipping and packaging, everything flows. It doesn't have to be in a straight line. It can be a loop. You can work around the shop. It doesn't matter how you do it, as long as your design for your workflow is intentional and locates consecutive steps consecutively next to each other. That's a way to very easily, the most it'll cost you is maybe a little bit of rearranging time, maybe an hour or two rearranging the shop, and you can sketch it out for free. You can brainstorm and imagine the layout. You can think through, where do I go? After here, I go here and then over to here. Well, let's change that around. Having a good process for how you bin your parts. John was pushing me on this when he was here in my shop because that's one area where I'm weak. I don't have a consistent pattern for binning parts for certain parts of my process. When I'm working at the CNC machine and I'm trimming parts, that process is very dialed in. I have certain bins of certain sizes, hold a certain number of parts. I have a way of setting them up so I'm doing minimal movement in and out of the machine. Everything is very streamlined there. In other places in the shop, stuff is less streamlined. You also have to take into account your volume. If you're putting out 50 holsters a week, and to keep up, you really need to be putting out 75, a 50% increase in speed is huge. That would be a major milestone if you manage to accomplish that. If you're doing 6 holsters in a week and you want to do 7, squeezing out 1 extra holster is probably not that difficult. Finding a little extra speed, a little extra time, a little extra efficiency to get that extra holster done is pretty manageable. You're not going to go from 0 to track star instantly. One of the reasons I think it's important to establish averaged benchmarks is that you can keep track of them over a period of time. Some changes, jigs, says Alan. Yeah, if there are things you do that are time consuming every time you do them, even if you have to invest a chunk of time up front to standardize that step, if every time you do it after that, it's faster and more consistent, you buy back that time a bite at a time until you've bought it all back, and from there on it's just bonus. Take open questions on the process, train somebody who hasn't seen it, they'll find all the strange stuff you do. Yeah, a different set of eyes is valuable. An untrained person can be valuable, but also a trained person can be valuable. I think it's worth having other holster makers into your shop to show them how you do things and say, what do you think? Where am I wasting time? Where can I tighten this up? How could I be doing this better? Are there tips or tricks you have that you use in your shop that save you time? I started buying multiples of tools. I just bought myself another broom today. I've got 3 brooms and a hand brush, 2 hand brushes, 3 hand brushes in the shop. Because if I need to clean something up, I do not want to be hunting around the shop for the one broom that's hidden away in a corner somewhere. I've got one over there. I've got one over there. I've got a hand brush by the machine. I got a hand brush by the sanding tables. I've got stuff spread around the shop. Those little deburring tools that were my tool tip like 10 episodes ago, I've got 5, 6 of those now. And one of them lives on basically every bench in the shop, every major bench in the shop, so that I don't have to go hunting for them. I can just say, okay, I need a deburring tool. There's the nearest deburring tool. Pick it up, deburr an edge, put it back down, keep going. Keeping the shop clean and putting things back where you mean them to be is a place where a lot of people lose a lot of time. Every minute you have to spend hunting for a tool is wasted time. It contributes in no way to the quality of your product. It does not make the customer happier. It doesn't get him his stuff sooner. It's just time that went up in smoke. And if you're looking for the tool, you're probably not doing anything else. You're probably not pressing holsters and looking for the tool. You're probably not drilling eyelet holes and looking for a tool. And so your shop doesn't have to be beautifully organized. Some guys have a shop just for the sake of organizing it. They live to organize. I organize to live. I organize my shop for the sake of doing the work better. I don't have a shop for the sake of having tons of cool stuff to organize. But I do have fairly consistent ways I have of storing things and places I put things so that if I need to find something, I know where it is. I don't have to look for it. Looking for stuff is just really, really irritating. And if you know what it costs you per hour, if you know what you're making per hour on the work, a few minutes here, a few minutes there, a few minutes there, 45 minutes wasted in a day looking for tools, that happens a couple days a week, and you could have probably bought some of those tools a second time or even a third one, and you'll never have to look for them again. And then, if one of them breaks, guess what? You've got spares. They're already there in your shop. For mission-critical stuff, tools you cannot finish the projects without, I'm a big fan of buying spares, or at least having a backup plan or an alternate tool method. So I only have one strip heater, but I know in a pinch, if that strip heater died, I can still fold my holsters. I got a couple of heat guns. I have 4 heat guns in the shop. And I keep spare attachments for them. So that because there was a period of time when, for some reason, I got like a bad batch of DeWalt heat guns from Lowe's, and I blew through 3 or 4 of them in a couple of months. So after that, I never trusted them, so I bought several extras. If you have tools that you can't do without, and it's possible for you to afford spares, get spares, especially of tools that are not easily available in stock. If it's a tool you can get overnighted from Amazon, it's less critical that you have a spare, but then you're also completely at the mercy of whoever your suppliers are and what they have in stock. Guys get bit by this all the time if they do the 5 here, 5 there, 5 here purchasing approach to belt loops and hardware. You know, they use up their 5, they go to order more, and all of a sudden index is out. And they're like, oh no, I need 5 of these because I've got holsters to make tomorrow that need them, and index is out. You know, buying supplies in bulk improves your ability to move at speed, because I don't want to spend time counting supplies. I don't want to be at the end of every day constantly monitoring, you know, how much do I have left? How much do I have left? How much Boltron do I have left? I don't know, 25 4x8 foot sheets? Plenty. How many 2x2s do I have cut for the machine? I've probably got like 35 of those left. Plenty. If I need to reorder, I've got time to reorder. And I'm not going to lose time and waste work by getting to a point and then just getting stuck and getting stalled out. So here are some, I've already mentioned a couple of these. These are some real straightforward ways that a shop of any size can increase speed. John says, I go through Dremels like candy. Well, John, stop eating them. It'll be better for your teeth, too. Buy the right tools. Bad tools, tools that are unreliable, that give poor results, that require a lot of setup and maintenance that are a hassle, those tools cost you time. Junky tools are not a good investment. Buy extra material whenever you can, unless it's a totally unique product and you'll never need that material again. Whenever you can, buy extra material. Change the layout of your shop to improve your workflow. Now it's saying my connection is weak, dog and a half. Don't overcommit yourself. Don't take on projects that you don't have time to do. You'll rush them, you'll make mistakes, you'll lose time and get behind. In your shop, stress. Yeah, I don't know where Levi is. In your shop, stress kills speed. If you overcommit yourself, if you bite off, I'm a fan of biting off more than you can chew. And I consistently try to bite off more than I can chew. Because the only way I'm going to learn to chew more, the only way I'm going to make myself chew more, is if I bite off more than I can chew and then I have to chew it. But if you bite off way more than you can chew, and you're at a point where it's just getting stupid. That stress tends to sort of avalanche. It snowballs. And then you start making a lot of other mistakes. Yeah, he probably will ask about it tomorrow. I know. Hello, Cook Alcala. Thanks for watching. And so having outside eyes, actually having a stopwatch or a timer and timing some steps, because for a lot, like the same way a lot of small businesses don't have any idea what their website analytics look like, they just don't even know what the data is. A lot of holster makers don't have any idea how much time they actually spend. They have a sense, they have a gut feel for how long it takes, but they don't know. So just time yourself. I have somewhere in the shop, I've got a kitchen timer. I don't like using my phone. I like having a magnetic kitchen timer, kind of large dial with a start-stop button. I don't have to worry about fumbling it or dropping it. It's pretty straightforward. That's what I use to time things in my shop. And it's helpful to me. Like sometimes I write my times down, sometimes I don't. Sometimes the times are stable, sometimes they're not. Sometimes one goes really well and the next one goes badly and it's slower, and this is not it's not an exact science, but you can get a basic sense from measuring your time of about how many holsters you should be able to produce per hour, per week, per month. Okay? You should be able to see what your business can currently handle and then know where the line is that you're going to sort of lean across in terms of taking on more business, getting more orders, biting off more you can choose, stretching yourself. So the goal is always to put the best product we can in the customer's hands on time with as few mistakes as possible. But it's super easy to get sucked into the penny pinching, trying to manage material costs to keep your margin high. And that can really, really suck away all the efficiency of your speed. I struggle with multitasking too. Conrad's commenting on multitasking. It is a challenge for me to manage multiple things. I know businesses that have employees still struggle with multitasking because even if you have employees in the shop, everyone is still having to handle some range of things. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate you watching. Oh, I totally forgot to ask. While you're still here, those of you who are still here, I would really appreciate it if you would like the feed and share the feed on your page. I'll wait. Okay, moving on. Hey, Todd May just got here. Like the feed. Share the feed, Todd. So, Todd, I pretty much covered everything, but the quick recap is time yourself, have somebody else look at your shop, keep your shop clean, change your shop layout so you're not wasting time moving around unnecessarily, and then, over time, compare your benchmark times and see if you are seeing a trajectory of improvement. What I want to see for time in my shop, I don't expect to see 25% improvements from week to week, but I do expect to see this month versus last month, I expect to see certain parts of the process going faster. I expect to see improvements I make in the shop actually adding up to more units per week, to more dollar sales per month. Yeah, says Keith, buy spares. Guys, the feeling of relief that wells up inside me when something goes wrong or a tool breaks or something just bites the dust and I have a spare and the downtime is 5 minutes and I'm back up and running, that is so unbelievably satisfying. Just the dollars I spent on the spare tool are worth it often just for that feeling of like, oh, yes, I am ready for this. I have a spare. I am not derailed. I'm going to stay on track. Thank you guys for sharing the post. I appreciate that. The other thing where you can make up a lot of speed is general process improvements. It's not just buy good tools, but buy new tools. Bring new equipment into your process. So some examples that are big are going from snapping and scoring or shears to a scroll saw, going from a scroll saw to a band saw, going into trim routing with trim molds, getting into tracing templates to mark all your drill locations and all your cut lines very quickly. Those things add up in a hurry to more parts per hour, more parts per week, more money in the bank at the end of each month. But there's a learning curve, and I've talked about learning curve before. There's a learning curve of time involved. Initially, some shop improvements will actually make you slower because you have to get comfortable with them. Once you're comfortable with them, you start buying that time back one bite at a time until you've got it all back, and then you're making bonus. Darkstar just shared, other people shared. Guys, I appreciate the shares. That means a lot to me. Thank you. Finding ways to batch as many things as possible. Batch packing your orders. Batch printing your labels. Batch sweeping your shop. I don't do like 5 minutes of sweeping here and 5 minutes of sweeping there. Sometimes in the middle of the day, I'll just stop, and for 20 minutes, I'll just sweep the whole shop. Anywhere I can see junk on the floor, clean it up. Get the shop vac out, clean around stuff, sweep. Everything goes out in the big bin outside. It's just a reset button. Often during my day, if I'm multitasking heavily, I'll just need to take a break, punch the reset button, and then come back with the speed. Because if I start getting pulled in too many directions, if I start getting spread out too wide, I lose my speed. Finally starting to move my appendix plus mag carrier to the Swift press and trim board to the rest of the line. Already saving tons of time, says Ryan. Well, I'm glad to hear that. It's a really slick looking design. Of all the ones I've seen, yours looks to be one of the most cleanly executed, so props on that. And then anytime you can buy something and not have to make it. The bad old days used to be we'd have belt loop days, just belt loop days, and they were awful, just horrible. An entire day of just cutting .125 bolt rod into strips, polishing the edges, heating them up in sets of 10 at a time, and then clamping them in this jig that made them into belt loops. Awful. Just, ugh. Anytime you can do a bunch of something at once and get it done and get in that groove, I work well in grooves. When I'm drilling things and I'm at the drill press and I'm in that zone, I'm just cranking. If I'm setting eyelets and I'm at the arbor press and I'm in that zone, I'm like putting them in and I flip them over and crank, 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 bin. Put the eyelets in, put the holster over, pop, pop, bin. That is the way that I get as quickly as I can through the individual steps. I often have to manage a CNC or two CNCs and the vacuum former, but yeah, belt loops, Anthony Booth. Sometimes I think I may still have dreams about that when I'm 60. Those were horrible days. But you can also outsource. Keith Freeman mentioned this. Tom joked about it earlier. He said, give Andrew Henry money. And to a point, yeah, you can speed up your process by giving me money. When you get custom molds designed and they are ready out of the box with no need to attach new blocking, no tape, no Bondo, no water weld, no screws, no shims, nothing. Every time you use that mold, you're saving time. Every time you pop a shell off that mold and put it right back onto the press, and you don't have to check the blocking, and you don't have to repair the blocking, you don't have to check your shims, you don't have to replace any of the tape. Still trying to get polishing down to less than 2 minutes per, getting close. Here's one other big way you can increase your speed. Change your standards. Now, there are some standards that must not be changed. Basic standards of trigger coverage and safe function should not be compromised at all. But there are ways to get to an end product that is of good quality, safe, and comfortable while spending less time doing it. So the big one for me, like I don't do gloss edges anymore, and I've mentioned this before. I'm now using those aluminum oxide flap wheels. That's the finished edge that goes out the door on my holsters. A clean shop helps a lot. I never finish for the night without sweeping and vacuuming. Nothing beats the feeling of walking into a clean shop. Yeah. Yeah, if you walk into a shop and the shop is a disaster, it sucks all the energy out of me. Man, coming into a shop and having the shop look like trash and knowing that before I can do any work, I just have to clean, that's frustrating. I have a walkthrough I do at the end of the night. I do some cleaning, I vent my air compressor, I straighten things up. I just look around the shop for tools that are out of place and just quickly go through and put things back where they're supposed to be, so when I come in the morning, I can hit the ground running. Because when I come in the morning, I've usually had my breakfast and had my coffee and I'm ready to hit the ground. And I want to come into the shop and I pick up the pace. It really takes the wind out of my sails if I come into the shop and the first hour is just spent putzing around with stuff. Some days, you'll spend your day working on the business, not in the business. That might be moving in and setting up new equipment. That might be rearranging the shop layout. That could be a whole bunch of things. That could be prototyping a new design. Sometimes I'll spend an entire day and make no saleable units. All I'll be doing is prototyping molds. Make a mold, make a test shell. Finish the holster out, test the holster. Throw it away, throw the mold away. Make revisions, cut a new mold. Make a test holster, try the holster. Throw it away, throw the mold away. Go again. Okay? That happens. It's life. Gloss does take way too long. Matte is way faster and I think a nice look. Once again, I think the distinction between a coarse matte finish, a fine matte finish, a low gloss, and a high gloss finish, that those really come down to your marketing and branding decisions. Hello, Ahmad, Covert Industries in the house. A lot of those things come down to how you want to present and advertise your holsters. Is your line designed to be a premium holster? You know, Jurassic Park, spared, no expense, of course. If you're marketing and you're charging at a spared, no expense price bracket, then really rich, deep, full gloss edges make sense. They do increase the impression of quality to certain discerning users who care. Most users don't, most won't notice, and many of the ones who even would notice don't especially care to pay for it and would be happy to pay $5 or $10 less and get a simpler coarse matte edge. So it's really a choice for you to make and then adjust as you need to. If you find that customers, if you raise your prices or you change your features and it affects your sales, that's the market giving you feedback on your decision. Listen to the market. Okay? You don't get to decide what your customers want. You can try to find customers who want what you want to make, but you don't get to decide what your customers should want. If I had a customer who really, 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 really wanted gloss edges and he asked and asked and asked about it, I might make them for him. I might not even upcharge him. It would just depend. That's my decision to make. But if I decide to configure my holster a certain way and set it up with certain hardware and a certain look and it doesn't sell, the market's not wrong. I'm wrong. Once the edges are smooth, there is no need to go further. Rough edges will allow a crack to form and cause a failure. So I like to get all the tool marks out. Once the tool marks are out and the edge is consistent and not sharp with burrs, then I'm done. That's it for me. Hello, JT. Hi, Clark. And so that's been a change, and it has saved me time per holster. I have a buffer that's got microfiber wheels on it that I used to use to really get that glossy. I never touch it anymore. It lives under my bench. I don't need it. How do you contend with your kids moving your tools? Lol, in her purse. I have a no-touch rule in my shop. Okay, there are a few tools, a few things in the shop that my boys know they are allowed to play with, and when they come in, they usually get their hands on those pretty quick. But they are not allowed to take any other tools off the bench at any time. So my tools don't really migrate that much, Cameron, but I think also your daughter is older than my son's. My 2-year-old, I usually just park him on a chair, and he just likes to watch the CNC machine run. But then again, you know, spares. I've got 6 or 8 tape measures kicking around the shop. And after a while, I started buying these ones. They were $3.99 on sale. It's a 12-foot tape measure. I don't need more than that for most of what I'm doing. And they're bright yellow. They're easy to spot. I've got some nicer ones, some longer ones, some 25-foot ones, or some precision ones. I've got a nice stare at tape measure, but it's gray, and it blends in everywhere. It can be right in front of me, and I can't see it. But these, I've got 4 of these kicking around the shop. They're easy to find. I keep one on every major bench and don't have to go hunting very much. You're late. You are late. Good grief, Michael. So those are some of my thoughts on speed. Stress kills speed. If you're feeling stressed, if you're feeling uptight, take a break, get something to eat, you know, walk around a bit, make a phone call, talk to somebody you haven't talked to in a while. Like, I watched a short video from Gary Vaynerchuk today, which I really liked. And one of the comments he made was he was sitting on a bench, and he's looking at all these people walking around. Yeah, sorry, bruh. And he says, all these people are walking around here like they're coming back. They're all walking around here like they're coming back. And we don't know if we're coming back. So, like, I like making holsters. I like running my CNC machine. In CNC machining, speed is all about, it's about fixturing, it's about planning, it's about driving your tools aggressively, it's about anticipating in the part design where you can save time, minimizing overlap, minimizing air cutting, minimizing all the kinds of things that just soak up cycle time. CNC optimization for speed is probably going to need to be its own talk, its own Facebook Live broadcast. I'm not really going to get into it much tonight. But this is mostly about the manual holster-specific side of the process. And lost my train of thought. Michael showed up and just threw me. All the inches per minute, says Clark. Yeah. I just today ordered. Freehand don't always look as good as a consistent cut every time, says Richard Perry. Yeah. Well, once again, it's about your standards. If your standards require that the holsters be virtually indistinguishable by eye to you, and you're freehand cutting them, then you will have to go super, super slow in order to achieve that consistency. If you're using templates, you save time. If you're using trim guides, trim router jigs, you're going to save a lot of time, and you'll get that consistency. But, you know, this past week I made 2 custom holsters for a buddy who I've made a bunch of holsters for before. He got himself a new gun. It wasn't something I usually offered, but I did have a Blem HDPE mold that would work for it. So I made him 2 holsters. They were all freehand cut, no template, and I could tell them apart. They were very subtle differences. They were real close, but they were very subtle differences. Can he tell them apart? No. Unless he marks them with a sticker or a Sharpie, he'll never be able to tell them apart. But I can. Does it matter to the end user? Nope. Doesn't matter to the end user at all. So sometimes you can just save time by lowering your standards a little bit. If those standards exist just to satisfy you, then they're totally fair game for changing. If those standards exist to protect the customer, don't touch them. Leave them where they're at. So that's it on speed for tonight. I suspect that the low-hanging fruit, the easy opportunities for you guys to pick up speed in your shop are going to be a few key investments in better quality tools, looking hard at your shop layout and figuring out how to minimize carrying bins around and moving back and forth and back and forth. If you can eliminate more of that, you will save time. And then keeping the shop clean and buying multiples of tools that you end up hunting for. You know, if you've got critical tools and you end up looking for them, you know, if I went looking for a certain small tool more than 3 times in a week, that's an immediate buy. You know, if that tool's less than $50 and I go looking for it a couple times in 1 week, replacement purchased immediately. Not even worth spending time to think about, like, well, you know, is it really worth it? No. Buy it. Just get it done. Move on with your life. But Clark mentioned all the inches per minute. I bought an upgrade for my brother Mill, which will allow me to start hitting the 700 inches per minute feed rates on some of my parts, which I'm super excited about. I got the upgraded look ahead. so my machine can more accurately anticipate where it's going to have to go with those super high speeds. Can't wait for that. Rick Mosley says, thanks for taking the time to do the videos. It's my pleasure, Rick. One other thing I wanted to put out there, I really enjoy talking to other holster makers one-on-one and talking about detailed questions and situations. I know a number of you have sent me messages on Facebook or DMs on Instagram or have given me a call or a text. I'm happy to do that. If I don't have time for you that day, I will tell you so, and don't take it personally. I'll get with you on that later, Clark. The best way to get a hold of me is either by phone, text 812-369-2266, or DM on Instagram. Don't message me on Facebook. Between the Facebook app and the Pages app and Messenger just being retarded, oftentimes messages are an enormous pain for me to track down. So if you need to get a hold of me, text me, call me, or DM me. Don't Facebook message me. Email's fine. I also answer emails pretty quickly. But I have really enjoyed the opportunities I've had to spend a little bit of time on the phone with other holster makers who call me up with questions, who have things they want to know, things I can help them with. I enjoy that. That encourages me. That amps me up. It motivates me. I benefit from it. It also helps me think through and explain why I do things the way that I do them. And there is no one-size-fits-all. I've had conversations with guys who called me with questions about a Swift press, and by the end of the conversation, I told them that I didn't think a Swift press would be a good fit for what they wanted to do, and I recommended an HD. Or I recommended, a coffee bum press. I recommended some other way of doing it because of the details they told me about their situation. So what you won't hear from me ever is saying a Swift press is what everybody needs to use and everybody has to have trim router jigs. Hey, Christian Green from Green's Holsters is here. Thank you for stopping by. I don't know if I've seen you on one of my feeds before. If not, and this is your first time, thank you for stopping by. Welcome to you. I'm at the very tail end. I'm almost out of juice on this. I have a few other things I've got to get done tonight, so I'm going to call it an evening. But don't hesitate to reach out to me. I may not get back to you immediately, but I do want to talk to you. If you call me or you DM me, I will get back with you. And it's a win-win for both of us. I get to know you. I get to help you. I find out about what you're doing, and it inspires and encourages me. So don't hesitate. That's all for now. I still have a few Swift presses in stock. I'm down to single digits, and they are still on sale. The code FAST40 is still good for $40 off a Swift press, with free shipping also, any place in the lower 48. If you are in Alaska, shipping's extra. There's extra cost. So that's that. Thank you guys very much for stopping by. I appreciate you liking the feed and sharing the feed. It's been a pleasure to spend the evening with you. I'm going to go get back to my shop stuff, and I hope to do 1 or 2 more of these in the next week. Also, Instagram Live launched on my radar today. I'd seen it, some talk about it, seen some articles about it. It showed up on my phone today, and I'm going to start using that daily. So if you follow me on Instagram, I would appreciate it if you would turn push notifications on for my page, and then if I drive you crazy later, feel free to turn them off. But the difference is the Instagram videos cannot be rewatched later. I can only see comments. A lot of guys don't seem to have gotten that update yet. Luke, I'll go over it again. Instagram now has live video in stories at the top of the screen, top of the home screen. I'm going to start using that very often. The downside is the videos can't be saved. So longer, more detailed discussions like this are still going to be conducted on Facebook Live, but things like showing the vacuum former running, doing tool tips, some other things, I'm going to start doing some of those on Instagram Live video. So if you have Instagram, I would appreciate it if you would turn on push notifications for my page, and then once in a while when you get a prompt that I'm doing a live video, stop in. They're not going to be very long, probably 10 minutes or less, and I'm just going to start playing with that. It's a new tool at my disposal. I like live video. I'm going to see how it works, what kind of attention and interaction I can get, how well it works to handle comments and answer questions, and then figure out what kind of content actually works well on there. One of the big things for me is I've got way more followers on Instagram than I have on Facebook. Like more than triple the number of followers on Instagram that I have on than on Facebook. And so it makes sense for me to spend some more time and attention and energy on that live video stuff. Yeah, Brett, I think there'll probably be one left on Friday. But no, I don't take deposits. So, live dangerously. That's all for me for tonight, guys. Thank you very much. As usual, I will go through all the comments after the fact and answer any questions in text that I did not have a chance to answer here in the feed. I would also appreciate it if you have other questions that you would like to see addressed. Post them up in the comments here or send me a DM. Thanks a lot, guys. Good night.